Sorry, what? Do you remember that? Did you remember you dressed the
Hi everyone.
sisters?
Sorry. Well, yeah, you're listening now. Welcome to the last evening of our in-residence event here in Los Angeles. Thank you. Welcome to our last evening of our in-residence event here in Los Angeles. I'm absolutely delighted to introduce Dame Zandra Rhodes, an icon of British fashion, one of our, yes. Arianne Phillips, a celebrated costume designer and stylist, who also, thank you. And Grace Woodward, brand director at Zandra Rhodes. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I can't think of a better group of people to discuss icons of style, as you've both worked with some of the most iconic and famous women in the world. Zandra, you've dressed the likes of Princess Diana, Bianca Jagger, Diana Ross, Debbie Harry, Kate Moss, the list goes on. Can you kind of recall each of those women and those dresses and those stories like it was yesterday?
Oh, well.
Not quite yesterday.
I don't know about yesterday. I mean, the thing that's been very exciting with doing this collection for Matches is actually going back to remembering, like the dress that is the one that you've been seeing. I originally did that for, who was it I did it for?
Donna Summer. That's what I'm here for.
The encyclopedic knowledge at the end.
No, but I also did the special rose, dusty rose colourway for...
Lauren Bacall.
See? I could remember a few minutes ago, and then I sit here and I think, I can't remember a thing. So some people, like Princess Diana, I did actually go to the palace to fit her.
Incredible.
Other ones, we've just been going through archives and discovering pictures of people in them, like I've got 3 different ones of my dresses that Jackie Kennedy had.
Yeah.
One with the cacti on it, and I didn't even know that she had them at the time, but we've managed, in this day of all this stuff going on, you find pictures of things all the time, which is great.
That's what I love about it though, because it's so different from nowadays, where people are documenting everything they're wearing. The pictures live on the internet forever, whereas you must still be discovering.
Beware.
Which is amazing. And how was that experience with Princess Diana? Was that, you know?
That was very nice. I mean, I'd go to the palace and fit the dress on her. And then in America, everyone says, oh, well, what was she like? I mean, you never really got to know what she was like, because you'd go to the palace with the dress, and then you'd wait for a space so you could do your curtsy, and then she'd be put in the dress, and then one of them was a wrap dress, and she said, well, please, you've got to be very careful that the wrap dress is really a good wrap, because you can be sure that when I get out of the car, there'll be a photographer waiting just to see how daring the wrap is. So yeah. It mustn't be anything like that.
And you know, obviously you've kind of dressed lots of musicians and actresses and political figures. Who kind of wore your designs the best? Is there any particular images that you just feel like?
The image I always like is the one of Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
In the pleated
I wish we
top.
could see it.
But I was phoned up, and it was like, and I said, and I hadn't got a special changing room, because it was my funny little workroom that Brick came to right at the beginning, and you climb all these stairs, and it was just a big workroom with the machines and all the clothes. And so I said, you'd come up. They came after work when it was quiet, and I said, well, now try the thing. So they tried, really, what were my ladies' tops on, and I said, see how it feels when you're playing, and how you want to feel on the stage, so that you get the feel of the garment. So he was sort of moving around the room in the pleated top that you see that picture of.
It must be amazing for you, Grace, to kind of have access to this wealth of imagery. And
it's not a chore. It's not a chore going to work. I've worked many years to get to this point where you go to work and like, this, I can't complain about this. And Zandra creates Zandra Land. She has a vision that goes beyond her clothes. So when you enter Zandra Land, everything is just really fun. It just is. You can't help it. And so that energy goes through everything. And she puts me to shame, the fact that how much energy she has and your positive outlook on everything. And I think you can, when you wear the clothes, you feel that way too. It goes through the whole brand. It goes through the clothes. You just feel incredible when you put a Zandra Rhodes piece on.
Yeah, it's definitely something that
Thank you, Grace.
it feels like it's transcended any type of trend. It's completely timeless. It looks as good today on lots of people in the room as it did in the 70s and the 80s, which is amazing. Arianne, how do you kind of identify with the idea of real style icons? Because obviously you've most famously worked with Madonna, and you have done for 20 years.
Well, I mean, icons, there's all kinds of icons and muses. Zandra is definitely an icon for me. And
Which
I
I
think
love.
it's obvious why. Her work is as relevant now as it was, 40 years ago. And her storytelling and all these incredible textiles. I mean, Zandra, am I right? Were you a textile artist first and then a fashion designer?
Oh, I'm a textile designer that couldn't find a job. I'd go to sell my things, and they'd say, "Oh, these are too extreme. How do you imagine that they'd look?" And so in the end, I realised that, I do a whole lot of designs, even for fairly trendy designers, and they'd say, "Well, I don't really see the lipsticks on things or hands on things." So it was gradually, I put them onto the dresses so that that's what I
They could
imagine
live
they'd look
in that
like.
way.
Yes.
I mean, your designs are so uniquely you. It's like in a culture where we're oversaturated with fashion, we're oversaturated with everything. You can look at a Zandra Rhodes dress and know it's a Zandra Rhodes dress. I mean, that is really about artistry and about vision, and that's what makes an icon. And also, I'm always curious about the stories behind these dresses, because there's lots of writing and, all these beautiful layers. And it feels like you're a great storyteller, and I really admire you for your ability to move between these great artists like Freddie Mercury or Donna Summer and fashion, and how you've managed to navigate that.
I think one just goes up and down, in truth.
And
put the best face forward.
yeah, for sure. And I think that that's what makes you so special. And someone like me, you have always, there's a Zandra Rhodes Museum in London. In the 90s, when I was doing a lot of work with David LaChapelle, we were lucky enough to loan some clothes for some photo shoots. And I mean, getting your hands on Zandra Rhodes is like a piece of art. So the fact that you're remaking these dresses in a contemporary way is really, really exciting. Congratulations. I think it's super cool.
Thrilled to be doing it.
To put some background into that, Zandra has kept every single piece of clothing that she's ever made. There's some pieces that have gone, but she has an archive. And so we were with the first collection for Matches, we went through it together and just pulling things out, and I'm just like going, oh my God. She's like, oh, that one, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like dying every time. But along with the museum, there is all of Zandra's archive, because, being a hoarder eventually benefits you, because I think everybody in fashion is a bit of a hoarder, right?
It still means you're living with packing big silver chests all along the side of the wall.
Now, I have a selfish question to ask you.
I'm happy
you guys
about this.
don't
Ask
mind.
away.
Is Zandra also you have designed costumes for operas.
Three.
And 3 operas. I am lucky enough to own a couple of your sketches from, I think it was The Magic Flute.
Oh, wonderful.
And I'm designing my first opera this year. So can you give me any advice?
I don't think you really need any, but I'm thrilled that you own some of my sketches. I mean, opera's it's quite wonderful because it's sort of a larger-than-life medium. And, I mean, I've just referred to some of the clothes I've done in the past, and then you turn them into a probably more extreme version.
It's so theatrical, so much
Yes.
drama.
So much drama, except that it has to be fairly practical, and they've got to be able to breathe in it.
But the cool thing is, and this was a revelation for me, especially doing 6 tours with Madonna is there's no mic packs. And that was kind of a revelation, because when you're a stylist and you're designing for rock and roll or any live musician, they have mic packs. And someone said, oh, well, we don't have to deal with mic packs and how you design around that. And I thought, oh, yeah, of course, that's opera, right?
But the other thing about opera that's quite good is no matter what the headdress is, they have to have their ears out, which you don't always realize when you're looking, but they've got to be, even if it's a helmet, their ears are always out so that they
can hear.
They can hear. And then the other thing, they've always got to be able to see the conductor.
And when was the last opera you designed?
The last one was Aida, and I did that first for Houston about, how long ago was it, Chetna? 3 years? 3 years.
I thought you're working on one now, aren't you? Is that a secret?
I'm working on a Turin dot at the moment, but I could refer back to my old designs just like I refer to these, and went back to, in fact, Aida relates, there's a pleated dress upstairs, which is the pink pleated one that's the
Lame one.
The Lame one.
We called it Pat Cleveland because we unearthed an amazing photo of Pat Cleveland in Studio 54, like 54. The dream.
So Aida was a lot of gold pleating over crinolines.
Sounds delicious.
And what costumes would both of you like to have had a hand in, if you could turn back?
What do you design? What one are you working on?
The opera I'm working on is a co-production between the Metropolitan Opera in New York and the E&O in London, actually, English National Opera. You'll have to come see it in London.
Fabulous.
It's a new opera. It's based on Marnie, which was a novel that Hitchcock made a movie of, an English novel. So it's set in 1959, but it's a new composition, Marnie.
Fabulous.
You have to come.
Wait.
You're invited.
But that's amazing that you've both diversified so much. It's not just working in fashion. You've kind of touched lots of different industries.
I think it's important to be prolific and have creative outlets. I mean, when I see an artist...
And be working all the time.
Yeah, it helps to say yes.
I know, you're putting us all to shame with your schedules. And Zandra, you kind of put London on the international fashion map in the 70s with, your work. Are there any particular decades or eras that have been very influential for you or inspiring, sartorially speaking?
I mean, at the moment, with the stuff that we're doing and bringing out, we're talking about the things that I did through the early 70s into the early 80s. But I don't like to feel that one's totally tied to an era. Otherwise, it means you're out of date. And so I think, you've always got to hope that everything you're doing, you put the same amount of work and inspiration into it, and you hope you're going to get new enough ideas to inspire the people to either want to wear them or use you for work.
True.
And for you, Arianne, is there any kind of references that always go back to a certain decade, or what's on your mood board every year?
Well, I think anything in the 30s. I always love a 30s bias dress. And it's basically times from my childhood, like the early 70s, the 80s. I mean, find things that are nostalgic or familiar. Or I think being a costume designer and working in film, I get the opportunity to kind of have these little mini adventures where you can kind of experience a story that was set in the 50s or the 70s, and then you kind of want to move on and do something else. So I think it just depends on what the medium is.
Yeah, I must say as well, while we're in Los Angeles, Nocturnal Animals, amazing costumes.
That was contemporary. So.
I know, everyone has been raving about it. We watched it on the plane, so it was great. And in terms of kind of style icons, how is that still relevant today? Do you feel like people are as iconic as they used to be? Do people have the same personal style and individuality maybe as
Style
the old
icons?
days? Yeah.
In general, yeah. I mean, I think everyone has their own style icon. I mean, it doesn't have to be someone that's stylish. It can be someone who has a great point of view or a great artist. I mean, for me, I always style icons for me are people I go back to, who I respect, admire, want to, mirror. Cindy Sherman, Madonna's an icon for me, and because I work with her. Zandra's an icon. Ella Fitzgerald, I was thinking about, she just would have been 100 a couple days ago. I mean, there's so many. Maya Deren, a great modern dancer, filmmaker in the 30s. I mean, it's as many creatives out there. I mean, my icons ebb and flow. I mean, you could be my icon next.
Sounds good. And Grace, I know you're working on a project where you're kind of reaching out to a new generation of Zandra girls and women. Who kind of do you feel like represents the brand in the modern age?
The great thing proven by this dress is that it can be worn by anybody. That's a real challenge. Like many fashion designs are, for a specific body shape or a very specific look. This dress fits anybody, which is a miracle, and this is why we love it so much. I think for Zandra, do you know that in 2 years' time, it'll be 50 years that Zandra's been in the business? So I think that we should get you two and do something incredible. Yeah, I think that is worth a round of applause. 50 years in the decades, and for me to go through all of the decades and to be able to pick out the first archive collection that we did with matches, I think we had one or two from every decade, and it was just, and they sat together so well. It wasn't just like, oh well, here's an 80s piece, no. You're just like, this is a cohesive piece of work. Like an artist will have a signature, if it would be, you can tell Picasso pieces, you can, like you were saying.
Yeah, and very collectible too.
Yes. Did you hear that? Everybody. So you can go upstairs and order your collectible dress right now, and it's going to be a museum piece very, very soon. But I'm not lying, it's true.
Absolutely.
But we are working on a Zandra Muses, past, present, and future. We have Britt Eklund here in the front row, everybody. Britt's in the house. I signed her up today. Phew. So we're going to get Zandra's original muses, and then some of them have amazing daughters, thankfully. But it's a spirit. Zandra Rhodes is a spirit, and you just know if somebody has it. They really do. And so we are looking to, my job at Zandra's is to future-proof her legacy. And so bringing new muses to the table is really inspiring, I think, for Zandra as well, to see new life in the brand, to see how people style it themselves, because it's not a dictatorial brand. I know that when
and they don't have to have pink hair.
No, exactly. You can have brown hair.
And you were the first. It's true.
Yeah, I think that's really nice. And Zandra, what continues to inspire you today? What makes you get out of bed and keep going to work every day?
Oh, gosh. It's great coming to something like this where you meet inspirational people, meet the wonderful staff who've got comments on things, also see some of the stuff that you've got on the rail, because I never look enough at things that are going on otherwise. I'm sort of dig my little hole and stay in it.
Obsession. She's obsessed. I think, when you're an artist, you can't not do what you do, because it's not a job, it's the way you express yourself and it's the way you see the world, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, ideally what I do like doing, but I can't do that at the moment because my partner's not very well, is to travel around, mainly with my great friend Andrew Logan, where I go on a sketching trip, and it could be anywhere, it could be India or it could be Morocco, where you just see things and you're not even thinking of fashion, and then in the end it will filter back into that.
Can you tell the audience a little bit about Andrew Logan and who he is and his legacy? He's such a great
Andrew
artist.
Logan is a close friend of mine, and he's a sculptor who works in mirror and makes jewelry to make money to live in between. So
incredible jewelry.
But he also does wonderful portraiture, and in Baltimore, in the museum, they've got several statues of Divine that he did, and he's done quite a lot of work in India, and we travel around. We often have had the opportunity to travel around and get inspiration together.
Have you collaborated together a lot?
we've done different shows. We've done shows in Russia, in Latvia. I can't think. I know in freezing cold winter once.
A fashion show.
Oh, a fashion show, yes.
In Latvia.
But with lots of jewellery too. So there were semi-naked
They were warm.
boys covered in jewels as well. I'm trying to think where else.
Andrew's
those
famous Zandra head. He's done
I think I've seen
it's famous and it's
like
amazing.
paper mache, right?
It's broken
No,
mirror.
it's all
It's the
in
mirror,
mirror.
and it's
all in mirror. He did one of modelled on, what's that very famous portrait by the Viennese painter that was stolen?
Klimt.
The Klimt. So he did an 8-foot Klimt of me with all coloured printing on the glass.
You speak a similar language. I mean, your aesthetics. If you guys have never heard of Andrew Logan and don't know his work, I urge you to Google him because he's a treasure.
So we've done a lot of different shows together, and he did he's done some of the jewellery and the magic flute when I did it. He did the medals on Sarastro.
Did he make that ring?
That ring's his, and
And the brooch, yeah. It's amazing. And you mentioned earlier that you, while you do live here, you're back in London once a month.
Once a month to my businesses down the side of the Fashion and Textile Museum that I founded, and then when I go back at the end of this month, we've got an Anna Sui exhibit opening.
Amazing.
So that would be very good.
That's fantastic.
Is it in Fulham?
No, it's right near the Shard where where Matches is, in Bermondsey.
Bermondsey, yeah.
So London Bridge Tube Station.
Yeah, very
And it's
handy
orange
for
and
us.
pink because it was designed by Ricardo Ligretta, the Mexican architect. Nice and colourful.
It has a legendary floor that's worth seeing.
Yeah,
Please.
maybe I might just pass this.
Because I was a great fan, and we've known each other since we were both the same age. We're still the same age. But Zandra makes these beautiful, floaty, dreamy dresses. But when I was very, very young and strong, she made very, very heavy dresses.
Oh, the quilted dress. The one like your
Remember
quilted
the
dress is in the
quilted
Met,
one?
and another one's in the Victoria and Albert Museum.
And I am one of them.
Amazing, thank you. Well, I'm sure, as everyone would agree, we could listen to both of you, all evening. If anyone does have any questions, please put them forward to the panel. I'm just going to repeat them for the purposes of for our live stream.
I was very interested about some of the prints, the cacti prints that you're famous for, and how you came up with the inspiration for some of those. Were you travelling around looking at the cacti around Los Angeles?
In 1976, my boyfriend then had a Volkswagen camper, and we went across America from starting in New York, and we went right across and coming to Los Angeles, and then stopped. I ended up being enchanted by both Nudie, the cowboy guy, who had this wonderful shop in those days, and also we went drew the saguaro cactuses and stopped in the Joshua tree and I drew a whole lot of cactuses, and then I went back to London, and in 1975 did a show at the Roundhouse where I did corrals of fabric and did cactus and cowboys in them before anyone else had been doing them.
Good question.
And we're going to be bringing out some of the cactuses in the next collection for Matches.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you.
I was just going to say how much of an icon you are in London. So, like, seeing your work and what's happening in London, you sort of changed culture there and made a lot of young people come to London and realise that we can like make something happen there. So I just wanted to ask about how do you feel about how it is now? Obviously, like the internet, things like that. Do you feel like differently about it, or do you feel like it's the same city as it always was?
Do I feel London's the same as it always was?
Yeah, just the like with the internet, things that like changing.
I'm probably about the worst person to ask about the internet, as Chetna, the director of my company, would say. I think that it makes a tremendous difference. I mean, if I look back to sort of like the early 70s when I started, I think people used to come to London a lot more in the sense that now it gets bypassed and people don't come, and we've got to work out how this can happen. And I think things like what we're doing here and also through the internet,
I think
it
what
stands
people
a
forget
chance of
about, what people
expanding.
don't know about the brand as well is Zandra has the last 9-yard printing table in London, and we print everything in-house, and we make everything in-house. It's completely unique to the brand. And so I think people forget that clothes are made like that, and there's a creativity to that. And I think that you flying the flag for that and the spirit of that, I think that's what you're talking about, is still really prevalent. And Matches have then brought to the table technology for us. So Zandra can still do what she does in this incredible artistic way, and yet we can now reach the entire world in a day. And I think that reach is incredible, where artistry meets technology, I think is a really, really special and powerful place.
I do think as well that the English art school system still can bring out things like textile design. And, you know, the only other thing I would say that slightly competes would be something like the Rhode Island School of Design, Ridsky. You know, so we still have that happening for us in the UK.
Yeah, but they've stopped teaching textiles at schools.
Do they?
Yeah, they've stopped at GCSE. They're not doing it anymore. It's really bad. Need to fight to get it back.
Oh, we'll have to fight for that. You'll have to do something about that.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi. You have an extraordinary sense of colour, and I was wondering, if you look on your mannequins outside, each one is such a vibrant colour that you're mixing colours in an unusual way, which makes them so fantastic. And there are few designers who I can think of, like Saint Laurent and Beverly Hills, who really have that sense of colour mixing that's unusual, but that works perfectly. So my question for you is, do your patterns influence your colour choices, or do you start with a colour as your palette for designing?
Because I actually work in pigment, we have to start with the basis of the fabric. So you've got on a maroon dress, so we'd be putting the colour in pigment on top of that. So it would all be worked out practically in the print room. I find for me that's the best thing, to put the fabric on the table and then try different colours printed on it and see how it goes. I can't do that on computer. And you know, I find that I'm better when I'm looking at it and looking at the fabric, and then you cut a bit out and you see what it feels like against you. This particular group, we worked very hard to get so that we did all different contrasting dresses to cover a whole lot of different tastes.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah.
Can we get back to talking about icons of style? Who would you call the icons of style of our time?
No one. Do you mean fashion-wise?
No, I'm sorry for my English. This is not my native language. I apologize for it. I mean, nowadays people tend to mix up the icons of style and social media personalities. Who do you think are real icons of style nowadays?
Were you inspired by?
Can you name a few names that are...
You mean name people that are
Modern day
possibly
icons.
wonderful icons? You mean that might not necessarily be all over the internet? Is that slightly what you mean?
Yeah.
Who can you consider a real icon of style nowadays?
Zandra Rhodes.
I think there's artists that are doing really interesting things, like Lorde. I think she's really, really interesting. LaRue, I think, is really cool. Tilda Swinton is a total icon. I mean, these are people that come to mind for me for different reasons, not necessarily, could be the style of their art. Or there's a LA artist named Rawson Crowe who is super stylish and amazing artist. I think there's, I think that it's easy to look back at icons like, luckily that when Zandra was working with Donna Summer and Freddie Mercury, I doubt that they didn't have the impact that they have now. They're great artists then, but it's very easy to identify past icons. But I think that they're in our midst. There's special artists like Kendrick Lamar who are really amazing, who are shape-shifting our culture, who become icons. So.
Who do you think have a chance to become?
I don't know. I follow great art and people who have their own individual voice. So that's what interests me personally. I don't really look at what people are wearing on the do's and don'ts, and I try and stay away from all that internet stuff. I'm not interested in it myself because I like mistakes. I miss Cher. Where's Cher? Everything's so tasteful. So to me, an icon is a point of view, someone who has confidence, an artist.
I think you have to, there are those people that are brave enough to wear things where, for example, I knew Iris Apfel really before all of this media stuff because there was an exhibition at the Met and I just thought this woman must be the most extraordinary woman ever. Now she's also taken up on the internet, but she always looks extraordinary, whatever she does and whatever point of view she puts herself over with, or someone like Daphne Guinness that always looks amazing. Different people, often they're people that will just go on wearing things that are their own particular style, John Waters always puts himself together quite amazingly.
I think Florence and Florence and the Machine would look great in Zandra Rhodes.
Yeah.
She's got to wear this on. I'm talking to her manager at the moment.
So I think that, I suppose, if you were flicking through the images, or if you print them out, you might see some that then stand out in that they aren't just a picture, but there's something about them that comes forward, that catches your eye and continues to do so. And in which case, they're going to prove themselves through gradually the image of how they look. Is that making any sense?
How many years have you had pink hair? This is what it makes an icon. How many years?
Since 1980.
Amazing.
And it was green before that.
Pink before pink.
Green before pink, yes.
It was? And did that come... How did
Well, they didn't make the hair dye then, and I thought, I'd like to have... I didn't want to wear a wig, so I went to Leonard and got him to bleach bits, and we dyed it green, but the green would come out. And the other thing, to any of you that have used green hair dye, it goes like old straw. It doesn't... Pink's very easy to maintain. You don't have to do much maintenance.
Fashion tips.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, thank you all for joining us this evening, and thank you especially to you three. It's been fabulous to listen to you all.